Vajana
ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भाम्
शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम्
शङ्कराचार्यपर्यन्ताम् वन्दे
अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे
गुरुपरम्पराम्
गुरुपरम्पराम्
ॐ सहना भवतु
भवतु
सहनौ
नो
भुनक्तु सह
नक्तु सह
वीर्यम्
वीर्यं
करवावहै
करवावहै
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु
ॐ शान्ति शान्ति
शान्ति
शान्तिः.
हरिः ओम्.
So we are on the eighth mantra, chapter 14. So let us chant. Tamastvajnanamajam vidhi
तमस्त्वज्ञानजं विद्धि
mohanam sarvadehinam
मोहनं
मोहनं सर्वदेहिनां
pramadalasya nidrabhihi
प्रमादालस्य निद्राभिः
annibadnati bharata.
तन्निबध्नाति भारत
तन्निबध्नाति भारत.
भारत.
Okay, so I'll just unmute everybody because somebody is keeping on with unmuting themselves. So, two, but vidhi tamaha ajnanaja. You should know. To vidhi, you should know. Sorry, should know that tamaha ajnanajam. Tamas is born from ajnanam. What does it do? Mohinam sarva dehina. It deludes all beings. And tad nibadnati pramadalasya nidrabhi. Nibadnati, it binds by causing what? Pramada. Pramada is negligence. And alas. I would request you all not to mute yourself. Please deliberately see that you don't unmute yourself because it disturbs the recording, right? So that this tamas which is born from ajnanam, it deludes all beings, and that nibannati pramada alasya nidrabhihi. It binds in three ways by causing pramada, negligence, alasya, laziness, and nidrabhihi, sleep. Hey Bharata. So we have seen the lakshanam of sattva guna and rajaguna in the last two verses, slokas, and now we are seeing tamoguna lakshanam and tamoguna bandha prakara, the way in which tamoguna can be recognized and the way in which tamoguna binds. So vidhi tama ajnana jam. That tamas is born from ajnana. And ajnanajam is ajnanat jatam, born from ajnanam. So ajnanam in the context means what? When you say tamas is born from ajnanam, what is the contextual meaning of tamas, of ajnanam?
identifying with the body.
Tamas cannot be born because you identify with the body, right?
So not studying scriptures, not being attentive to
Those
scripture.
are all products of tamas, of ajnanam.
Okay.
I'm saying what is the ajnanam in this context mean? It means mula vidya, prakriti.
Prakriti.
Original source of creation, right? So from prakriti alone, all the gunas are born. Sattva is born, Raja is born, and Tamas is also born. So what is being said here is nobody can avoid Tamas because from Prakriti, three gunas are born. And while Sattva and Rajas, we know they are born. You should know that from that Mula Vidya, from that Maya. Tamas is also born. And since you have a body and a mind, and both are born from Maya, both have all the three gunas, you cannot escape from tamoguna only. So remember here that whenever we talk about these gunas, in this case, in this mantra, we are saying tamoguna. It doesn't mean that rajas and sattva are not there. Because everybody has the three gunas. Nobody can avoid any of the three gunas. But we are talking about a predominance of tamoguna in a person. Right? And what is the problem with the predominance of tamoguna? The first is that it suppresses sattva and rajas. Right? And when it suppresses sattva and rajas, because of suppression of sattva, clarity of thinking is not there. Where is the question of raising an inquiry into the purpose of life? Right? And because of that alone, mohanam. Mohanam means aviveka karam. It means aviveka karam means that tamas is mohanam. It makes the mind have a aviveka guna. It makes the mind have a lack of discrimination. There is no clear thinking. There is no idea about where I should go in life. Priorities are not clear. How much money I should have, how much health I should have, how much knowledge I should have. Priorities are not clear at all. There is no clarity, and therefore he is just moving along with the flow of life. He is battered by the winds of prarabdha. He goes here and there on the sea of prarabdha. He does not know what is to be done and what is to be not done. And incidentally, some of these people can be so intensely, so extremely tamasic that, when you try to help them, you may be having a clear mind, maybe sattvic in nature. But there are some people, they are so intensely tamasic that when you talk to them, ultimately you end up coming away confused. Do you know anybody like this? Everybody has
Yes,
at least one
Acharya.
person like that in their life. So you may be clear about yourself, but Prarabdha has made it so that you cannot avoid such people. Very often they are your family members. Right? And every time you talk to them, you feel, what am I doing? But you can't avoid talking. So that is the play of Ishvara, right? He's telling you, don't think you're all that smart. I know how to make you run around in circles. What should you do? Since when you talk to them, you either get angry or confused or both. And they will definitely not take any of your solutions. Any of your suggestions, they will never do. They will never accept. So, what is the only way to handle those people?
To be
Make some
indifferent.
internal changes in
Different.
ourselves.
No, you pray.
Yeah, send best wishes for them.
You pray to Ishvara and say, see, sending best wishes to them is okay when, you don't have a responsibility. A friend of yours, a neighbor of yours, you can say that. What if it's a family member? Can you say, I send my best wishes to you and walk away? You can't. You have a responsibility, right? That is the time in which you need to pray very intensely, asking the Lord, first of all, give me the strength to be able to manage this prarabdha of mine. Secondly, if at all it is possible, drive some sense into this fellow's head, which may not be possible. So he says, Sarvadehinam, Sarvesham Dehavata, all those people who are focused on the body. Sarvadehinam is that person who is focused on the body alone, which means what? They have not come to jnana. And therefore, how does it bind? Pramada, alasya, nidravihi. Binds through carelessness, negligence, and sleep. So Shankara defines each of these. Pramada is what? Kartavya akaranam. Not doing what is to be done, not deliberately, because you have forgotten. Right? And alasya is laziness, and nidra is sleep. Now, Do you know people who are, in this nidra avastha all the time? He is either sleepy or he is sleeping. There are only two avasthas. Jagrata avastha is not there at all. So such people are also there. That he must be sitting in one corner with eyes closed, and you will say, "Oh, wonderful! At last he's meditating," but he's not. He's actually sleeping. Right? In the TTC, you see these people. Sometimes those people sitting in the front row, they close their eyes very deep. They have mastered the technique of keeping their body upright and sleeping. So you will wonder, what wonderful chap, whole 30 minutes he has kept his eyes closed. Actually, he's sleeping. And how will you know that? Because the next fellow will tell you, sir, he was actually snoring. So that snoring is the giving away of that sleep. And such a person who is sleepy or sleeping, one great thing is there. He doesn't do anything. And if he doesn't do anything, he doesn't acquire punyam or papa. But even that much agami is not required. So somebody will say, is that not good? Not acquiring punyam and papam. What is the answer to that?
No, because Sanchita is there.
Yeah, but there's no agami at all. This life he will go through without any acquiring any punyam papam.
But this life has the objective that we clear this, moksha or jnanam, and through that only we can clear our sanchita. That's the only way. So if we think that agami we are not making, but the sanchita is so much that again we have to take birth based on whatever we have.
Yeah, so basically what he's saying is that this person who is very lazy, he or very sleepy, he is very close to an animal. Because animal also does not acquire punyam and papa. Remember that animals also do not acquire punyam and papa. They only exhaust. This person also is only doing that. So because of this, tamoguna minds. And then now we look at verse number, sloka number 9. Sattvam sukhe sanjayati.
सत्त्वं
त्वं
सुखे
सुखे
सञ्जयति
Rajah karmani bharata.
रजः
रजः
कर्मणि
कर्मणि
भारत
भारत
ज्ञानम् आवृत्य तु तमः
ज्ञानम् आवृत्तु तमः
प्रमादे संजयत्युत.
प्रमादे
संजयत्युत.
संजयत्युत
Shankara gives in his commentary, the opening commentary here, saying Gunaha Gunanam Vyapara Uchyate, which means that again, Gunanam Vyaparaha, the operation of the gunas is being mentioned. In short, it is being briefly summarized. So, look at the words. The three gunas have been discussed. So, this is a follow-up verse in which he is summarizing what he has already discussed. Sattvam sanjayati sukhe. Sanjayati means binds. So, sattva guna binds you in the form of pleasure. Rajaha karmani, you have to supply sanjayati. Form binds you in the form of karma. Tu utaha, whereas indeed, so it's only a particle, so exclamation. Uttu utaha, whereas indeed, tamaha pramade sanjayati. Tamaha binds you in the form of negligence. How? Jnanam avritya he bharata. By covering the discriminative power he bharata. So, sattva guna causes, when you say binds, what adjective should you use? It's an addiction. It's like you say liquor binds you, right? Liquor causes the addiction. Similarly, sattva guna binds you. How? By causing an addiction to sukham. So, tranquility, quietude, seclusion. So, sukha sangaha means the problem is that, I love silence. I love knowledge. What is the problem with that? When that is not available, then my mind is disturbed. So it's a binding. Whatever disturbs your mind is a bondage. And therefore, if you are happy when you are alone, if you're happy when there is knowledge, the problem is that if it's not there, then you're unhappy. So in that sense only, you have to use this Sanjayati. So you have to ask yourself, liking silence is great. Okay, there's no problem. So if you like being alone, ask yourself, is it that I like being alone? Or is it that I'm addicted to being alone? That's the answer to whether you are bound by that sattva guna or not. If you prefer being alone, but you don't get disturbed when you are not alone, then sattva does not bind you. But when you're alone, if somebody walks in and you feel the irritation, disturbed me, why is he coming? Then you are addicted. So it's time to work on yourself. Then he says, Rajaha Karmani. Again, you have to understand as causing this rajas causes karma addiction. Doing karma is great. Addiction to karma is problem. Right? Like doing meditation is wonderful, but addiction to meditation is a problem. In fact, Shastra even says that if you are addicted to Shastram, then also it is a bondage. Shastra doesn't say, don't, get addicted to me. Any addiction is bad because addiction means when that object of your addiction is not there, then you are going to be unhappy. You're going to be disturbed. So that is the idea here. Do not be addicted. Do everything, but never be addicted. Then there's tu. Tu here is but or whereas. It's to distinguish the tamoguna from the previous two gunas. Tu. But unlike the previous gunas, rajas and tamas, jnanam avritya tamaha. The jnanam is covered by tamaha. So you must remember here that we are talking about vritti jnanam and not swarupa jnanam. So it's a very important idea. What is the difference between vritti jnanam and swarupa jnanam? Anybody?
Differences?
Whatever answers you give, please explain in detail. There's no point giving one word. What is the difference between vritti jnanam and swarupa jnanam? Anybody?
Swarup Jnanam is Brahman.
Okay.
That's the and Vritti Jnanam is, and that is of course Atma. And Vritti Jnanam is Anatma.
Mhm. So why is that point being brought in here? When you say jnanam avritya tamaha, tamaha conceals jnanam. Are we referring to vritti jnanam or swarupa jnanam?
Vritti Jnanam also.
Vritti Jnanam. Vritti
Why?
Jnanam. Because that is
It's
the
Jada.
Aropa on the Atma. That's the
It is an
superimposition.
Atma. And it is
Remember,
Jada.
Brahman can never be covered. Tamaha cannot cover Brahman. Tamaha cannot even touch Brahman. So Swarupa Jnanam means your true nature. Vritti Jnanam means here. Jnanam avrate tamaha. You have to rewrite as Vritti Jnanam avrate tamaha. This Vritti Jnanam is Aham Brahma Asmi Jnanam. So Tamaha Avritya Aham Brahma Asmi Jnanam. The idea that I am Brahman, that is covered by this Tamaha. And Avritya means conceals. Conceals means, of course, if you look at it in terms of transactional things, it conceals the clarity of thinking also. So any knowledge, not just Aham Brahmasmi knowledge, any knowledge, this fellow is unable to understand properly. Whatever job you give him, you can never say, you can never let him do it independently. Right? He cannot be a independently responsible person, has to be constantly supervised. And therefore, tamaha sanjayati pramade. This tamaha, it binds through negligence also. Earlier on, this was what? This was binding through the idea of addiction. Now we are saying it's binding through pramade also. Pramada is taken as not doing what has to be done. Right? What has to be done is not done. So that is again a person who is negligent. Not that he doesn't know what is to be done. He knows what is to be done, but he cannot bring himself to exert himself. So prapta kartavya akaranam. Not doing what has to be done. Omitting karma which has to be done. There is no proper attention done. There is no proper focus done. So even if he does something, the work will be incomplete and full of errors and will need constant supervision. You cannot trust him to be independently responsible for any job. And that makes it a very difficult thing for a supervisor. Because when somebody like this is there in your team, supposing you're in an office, when somebody like this is there in your team, what is the solution?
Give him some other portfolio.
And suppose he continues to do that in there also, then
Buddy him up with somebody who is more responsible.
this, yeah. See, the thing is that since I worked in the corporate sector also, the thing is that what most of us tend to do is quietly pass him on to another team leader. You know, the correct thing to do would be what? Terminate him. But then you think, oh man, this poor fellow, your wife, you got children. I don't want to be the agent of throwing him out. So you pass him on to somebody else and make it his responsibility. Ideally, what you should be doing is working on him, keeping him in your team, ensuring that there is a proper amount of mentoring, give him enough chances, and then only take a decision. Anyway, that's not part of the Bhagavad Gita. It's just by the way. Then let's look at the 10th shloka. रजस्तमश्चाभिभूयः
रजस्तमश्चाभिभूयः
सत्वं भवति भारत
सत्त्वं भवति भारत
रजः सत्वं तमश्चैव
रजसत्त्वं तमश्चैव
तमः सत्वं रजस्तथा
तमसत्त्वं रजस्तथा.
So here, how does it operate? Sattvam abhibhuya bhavati. Sattvam bhavati, sattvam arises how? Abhibhuyaha, by overshadowing, overpowering rajaha cha tamaha, rajas and tamas. So that is the first. First, sattvam arises means sattvam becomes predominant. How? By reducing the influence of rajas and tamas, by overpowering these two. Then raja sattvam cha eva tamaha. Rajas sattvam. Then rajas becomes predominant by overpowering tamas and sattvam. Eva tamaha. In the same manner, tamas becomes predominant by overpowering the other two. So tamaha sattvam tatha rajaha. Similarly, tamas becomes overpowered. Okay. So here, what is he saying? And therefore, Shankara introduces this verse by saying, Uktam karyam kada kurvanti gunaha. So the idea here is, when do the gunas bind? Do they bind all the time? Or do they bind at some times? Or is the binding conditional, dependent upon some event? This is the net effect of that line. Uktam karyam kada kurvanti. How does it bind? When does it bind? What is the answer? A guna becomes binding When?
They're not in
We don't-
balance.
When it is I do this, egocentric. I is involved.
No. Yeah. No. Don't. Atma, guna becomes binding only when it is predominant. That is the idea. Remember that a guna can do its basic function only when it is dominant. And because of the dominance of one guna, the other gunas will not be able to obstruct the functioning of the dominant guna. That is the idea conveyed. When sattva is dominant, what is the job of sattva?
Clarity of
Purity, knowledge.
Clarity of thought, clear knowledge. So when sattva is dominant, the other two gunas cannot obstruct the function. And therefore we say when sattva is dominant, knowledge can be absorbed. What happens if the three gunas are in equilibrium?
Then they all three do their function.
Anybody else? Okay, let's look at there is a triangle, okay? And there are three people at each end of the triangle. All three are equally strong and they're pulling. What happens?
No change. No job will be,
Acharya Pralayam.
there will be conflict. No job
Nothing
will
happens. Okay. And therefore, when the three gunas are in equilibrium, they're equally strong. Therefore, no guna can function. Because the other two gunas will obstruct the functioning. Because both all are equally strong. Remember, everything has three gunas. Even in, for example, a stone, three gunas are there. But in this stone, which is the most dominant guna?
Tamas.
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 And therefore, the functioning of sattva and rajas is obstructed completely. In a plant, for example, there is some amount of sattva and some amount of rajas. Because even though plant does not move, it has got life. And therefore, it has got more sattva and more rajas than tamaguna. For example, the stone. So stone has tama dominant. Plants have some amount of sattva and rajas. Animals have more amount of sattva and rajas because they can move around also and they have a capacity to learn also. Right? They can be taught things. Like you can teach your dog what to do. And they have more rajoguna because they can move. So human beings have got sattva and rajas and tamas, but the sattva and rajas are more dominant than in the other beings, than in the plant kingdom or the animal kingdom. And that is why you have the capacity to, what they call, have knowledge, including Atmajnana. So here Krishna is pointing out that even among human beings, all humans will not have the same proportion of gunas. Some of them have more sattva, some of them have got more rajas, some of them have more tamas. And it is the composition of the gunas, 70% sattva, 20% rajas, 10% tamas, 50% sattva, 30% rajas, 20% tamas. It is this composition that decides the swabhava of a person, the character of a person. The character of a person arises out of the composition of the gunas. And a sattvic person is a person who has predominantly sattva. But you have to understand that he also has tamas and rajas. In fact, in some people, tamas can be so predominant, that they are more close to animals or plants. Now he says, Sattvam bhavati. Sattva dominates. How? Rajatama abhibhuyaha. By overpowering rajas and tamas. And Shankara adds in his commentary, Yada labda atmakam sattva. When sattva is the dominant guna, tada swakaryam jnana sukhadi arabhate. You understand? Yada atmakam labda sattva. When sattva is dominant, tada at that point of time, swakaryam jnana sukha adi arabhate. Then only the sattva guna is able to commence its own function, swakaryam. And what is that? Jnanam, sukha, adi. Knowledge, sukha, etc. And therefore, when we talk about the gunas in relation to jnanam, normally we say sattva guna is conducive to jnana. Is that a correct statement in the light of the discussion?
Could you repeat, Acharya?
I am saying that it is very common, even among Vedantic students, to say that sattva guna is conducive to jnana. In the light of what all we have discussed, would you like to amend that statement? And if so, in what manner?
Rajas is also required to come to sattva. Otherwise,
No, we are not. We are talking about sattva and jnana. What should be the amendment in that statement? We have just discussed a lot about it.
Yeah,
Predominant,
should not be mind.
dominant sattva
Exactly.
is
So you have to say that dominance of sattva, that is dominant sattva guna, is conducive to jnana. When a person is predominantly sattva in nature, then only it is conducive to jnana. We don't use that. We say he is a sattvic person. What you mean is predominantly sattvic person, not just sattvic. Similarly, rajaha bhavati, rajaguna is dominant. And by how does it dominate? Sattvam eva tama abhibhuyaha. By overpowering sattva and tamaguna. Here also you should add, when rajoguna is dominant, it produces karma, or other way around, produces trishna, desire for something, and therefore produces karma. Right? So when rajoguna is dominant, there are two effects, trishna, the desire, and karma, to fulfill that desire. And tamaha, in a tamasic person, tama becomes dominant. Tamaha bhavati, it becomes dominant. How? Sattvam tatha rajaha abhibhuyaha. By overpowering sattvam and jnana and tamas. When tamas dominates, it covers the knowledge. Jnanam avaranam. And therefore only negligence and mistakes occur. So now, after all this discussion, we should have one very important question. What is that? If a person has a particular sattva, rajas, tamas, which means he is born with that sattva, rajas, tamas, percentage, let us say. Is it fixed character, or is it possible for us to change the character of a person? So we say a dog's tail can never be straightened. Is that, analogy applicable here?
No.
no,
What is the reason?
it can be changed through
Absolutely.
practice. Yes, Acharya?
Om Acharya.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Otherwise, we will have like a defined kind of destiny or fixed future. So we would not be able to mold, as Swami Shivananda says, our destiny through our habits and character, and therefore
Very
our
good.
destiny.
Free will.
Very
Free
good.
will.
Very good. So the idea, Vaishnavi, is also to say that supposing you are unable to change the character, supposing we are accepting the premise that the character, the guna is fixed, what is the major problem? Shastra becomes useless. Do you agree?
Yeah, fatalistic will.
Of course.
Shastra is useless. Therefore, there is no point in studying Bhagavad Gita. And that's why scriptures point out that the swabhava of a person, the nature of a person can always be transformed. The rate of transformation, of course, will be different from individual to individual, depending upon, first of all, the proportion itself, and secondly, upon the effort put in. And therefore, all spiritual sadhana is meant to change this proportion only. Because if you look at the sadhanas, every sadhana requires a particular guna as a dominant guna. If you have, for example, a very tamasic disciple, student, what is the first sadhana that you will ask him to do?
Physical activity,
Move.
Quietly.
Karma yoga.
yogasana,
He
karma
will not.
yoga.
Karma yoga.
I would ask him to start Surya Namaskar actually. And,
Yes,
and
dynamism.
slowly work up from 10 Surya Namaskars to 108. By the time he reaches 108 every day, you can be sure that Rajas has been generated. Right? His tamas will be converted to Rajas. I mean, other way around. I should modify the statement. I will convert him from a tamoguna predominant person to a rajoguna predominant person. That is the first step. And that is why Vedanta begins with what? Karmakanda. Veda begins with Karmakanda, not with Jnanakanda. The entire 80 to 85% of the Veda is only karma. Because this is the principle being followed. Be active in life, generate a lot of rajas so that your tamas can be completely made it a minimum. And again, Karmakanda itself has two divisions, karma and upasana. That is because the Veda recognizes that Rajoguna itself is of two types. Right? So when we talk about the guna structure of a person, we can use S for sattva, R for rajas, and T for tamas. If a person is sattvic, and of course, the placement of these alphabets indicate the dominance, right? So if it's a sattvic person, the first guna is S, right? So we will say S. S is the first guna. So it can be SRT, sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. So that's a sattvic person, person with a predominantly sattvic nature. What about cases where rajoguna is predominant? You don't require much thinking to tell you that the second guna can be either tamas or rajas
Sattva.
or sattva, right? Now, if the person has predominant rajoguna and is backed up by tattva guna, and the third guna is tamasic, so we call him RST. Okay, this is not scriptural language. Okay, we just say rajas predominant, second predominant guna is sattva, third is tamas. So you can think of something like 60% rajas and 30% sattva and 10% tamas. So RST. Such a person, what will be his nature? Look at the gunas. R means rajas, so he is active. S means sattva, so he is not selfishly active. Right? Sattva is there. He can think. So he can act for the benefit of others also. Such a person is called a Guna Kshatriya. In the Varna system, Varnashram system, a Kshatriya is a Guna Kshatriya. RST. Okay. Now this Rajoguna can be backed by Tamas first. Like instead of RST, you can have RTS. 60% Rajas, 30% Tamas, 10% Sattva. By the way, I'm just, bringing these numbers out of my head. Okay. It's not that there's a sanctity attached to the number. So please don't go by that. I'm just saying RST is Guna Kshatriya. RTS, Rajoguna predominant, backed by Tamoguna, and the third one is Sattva. What will happen is that Tamoguna will overpower Sattva. And therefore, the person will be more prone towards activity for the fulfillment of personal desires. Therefore, selfish activity. Right? Such a person is called a Guna Vaishya. Does it make sense?
Yes.
This is the description which we will come across. Then, remember that Vedas, Shruti does not condemn either. Neither the Guna Vaishya nor the Guna Kshatriya. Shruti says, let your life commence with activity. Let it be selfish. Be a Guna Vaishya. Fulfill your desires, Artha Kama, etc. Fulfill. Earn money, buy a house, buy cars, buy 5 cars, buy big houses, buy computers. Serve yourself, but be active. But once you have been a Guna Vaishya, that is selfishly active for some time, then it is time to gradually shift the character of your karma. Change from RTS to RST. So RTS, Guna Vaishya is Sakama karma. Karma only for your own sake. RST in the Guna Kshatriya is Nishkama karma. Doing karma also for others. But remember that whether you are RTS or RST, you are still attached to karma. And therefore, as long as Rajoguna is predominant, you will never find Jnana Yoga attractive. And therefore, start with karma, start with selfish karma if necessary, move to unselfish karma. When the mind has become mature, you should do a major conversion from RST to SRT. And that is why you have Karma Kanda and Upasana Kanda. Karma Kanda will take you from RST, RTS to RST. And if you want to move from RST to SRT, you need Upasana. Therefore, Karma Kanda will take you from Rajas, from Guna Vaishya to Guna Kshatriya. And Upasana will take you from Guna Kshatriya to Guna Sattva. So this is the route. There is from not being active to selfish activity, to selfless activity, to inquiry. The movement is from tamas predominance, that is deep in the beginning, to RTS, to RST, to SRT. This is the transformation. And if you look at the 4 ashramas, Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasa, you can actually connect these 4 ashramas to this journey. Inactivity, selfish activity, selfless activity, inquiry. In other words, transformation is from Guna Shudra, which is tamasic predominant. So in Shastric terms, you may be born as a Guna Shudra, where tamas is predominant. From there, you have to go to Guna Vaishya, which is Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva. From there, you have to go to Guna Kshatriya, which is Rajas, Sattva, and Tamas. And then you have to go to Guna Brahmana, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. So Guna Shudra is completely lazy. Guna Vaishya is active, but Sakama, selfishly active. Guna Kshatriya also active, but Nishkama, selflessly active. Guna Brahmana is oriented towards Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. And I have to understand where I stand. Right? Before I can take to a particular sadhana to transform my current guna percentages, first is what I have to understand where I stand, and then I have to adopt the appropriate sadhana and move along this line. Finally, landing up at SRT and coming to Jnana. So, one little warning here, this knowledge is not for judging others. This kind of analysis you have to do only as far as you are concerned. It is not to judge your wife or children or your or parents or anybody. Because the first thing that happens when we get knowledge is, we come, oh, I know all these things, let me try to classify everybody around me. That is not the idea. Classify yourself first. So question is, how do I understand where I stand? And that is where the next verse comes in. The lingam indicators are being discussed. So we will chant verse
Oh,
number 11.
Macharya ji.
Yeah.
Just so as far as it is concerned, the question that you made at the beginning regarding what happens with when the three gunas are in equilibrium. So
Yeah.
this only happens while creation is not there, right?
Pralayam.
Exactly, in pralayam. Otherwise, gunas are
Yes.
always changing
Gunas
proportions.
are always changing.
Mhm.
Because it's
Okay.
only in pralayam that nothing, all gunas are at, completely in equilibrium.
Mhm. That's why there is
Any
no creation.
any shift means creation will occur.
Mhm.
And remember, even during pralayam, Shastra says that while the gunas are in equilibrium, they are trying to get out of it.
Get out of it. Exactly. Thank you.
Okay. So we look at verse number 11. We will chant. Sarvadvareshu dehesmin
सर्वद्वारेषु देहेऽस्मिन्
prakasha upajayate
प्रकाशोपजायते
jnanam yada tada vidyat
ज्ञानं
ज्ञानं
यदा तदा
यदा तदा
विद्यात्
विद्यात्
vruddham sattvamithyut.
विवृद्धं
विवृद्धं
सत्त्वमित्युत.
So for Jnanam, some people are very, focused. And for example, let us ask, Vaishnavi, what time is it in your place?
It is 9:18 at night.
That's not too bad.
No. But I've
Okay.
received classes in the past a little bit,
Yeah.
how to say, I forgot the word in English.
Okay. So there are people who go out of the way to come to Jnanam. And that is possible only when the Sattva Guna is predominant. And that is what it says here. Yada prakashaha jnanam upajayate. When the light of jnanam grows, where sarvadvareshu smindehe, in all the dwaraha, doors of this body, and these doors are equivalent to indriyas. So sarva indriyeshu asmindehe, in all the sense organs of this body, when the light of jnanam grows, tada vidya iti utaha, one should know that sattvam vruddham, sattva is predominant in yourself. So the indication. So these three verses, 11, 12 and 13, they will discuss sattva lingam, rajalingam and tamalingam. Right? Now, remember that gunas are associated with colors also. Sattva is taken as white, rajas is red, and tamas is black. But remember, these are symbolic. Okay? It's not that when sattva is dominant, you will become fair. Right? Or that when night comes, you will become dark. These are only symbolic. And therefore, Krishna is giving a hint. How should I assess myself? And remember again, why should I assess myself? I should use this indicator, this lingam, to know where I stand, only for one purpose. What sadhana do I need? So here he says, that sadhana I will tell you. Asmin dehe sarvadvareshu prakasha upajayate. This dwaraha here, the door, is the indriyas. For only one reason we call it indriyas is that because only through these doors, these indriyas, does the external world flow into us. The knowledge of the external world comes in through the indriyas, and that's why it's called door. Okay. So, what about prakashaha? Shankara defines prakashaha is equal to antakarnasya buddhehe vritti. It is the thought in the antakarna. This is light of knowledge. Right? So, according to the definition, antakaranasya buddhehe vritti means that thought of knowledge in the mind, which is nothing but jnana. So when yada sattvam vivruddhaha, when sattvam is dominant, tada jnanam, then jnanam will happen. Your sense organs are bright when sattva is dominant. They are focused, so you can read better, you can hear better, you can understand better. So whenever you find that you are able to listen to the class and immediately understand, you should know that at that point of time, Sattva-guna is dominant. When you read something and you don't have to read it second time, immediately you understand. Understand that Sattva-guna is better. When somebody says something and immediately you grasp, you don't ask, what did you say? Then it means that Sattva-guna is better, is dominant. And therefore, that is the right time for what? Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, Iti Uta Vidyat. May you understand in this manner. He's saying this is the way in which you understand that Sattvam is predominant. Okay, I think we have enough time. One more verse. So we will look at verse number 12. Lobha pravartirarambha.
Lobha
pravrittirarambha
कर्मणामशमस्पृहा
karmanamashramaspraha
रजस्येतानि जायन्ते
rajasyetani jayante
विवृद्धे भरतर्षभ.
vivride bharatarshava.
So having discussed sattva, now he goes to rajas. How do I know that rajas is predominant? Lobaha pravrittihi, greed, lobaha, pravrittihi, physical activity, ashamaha. Shamaha means restful or focused mind. Ashamaha is restlessness. Spriha, yearning, longing. Arambaha karmana, beginning of karma, doing lots of karma. Etani jayante, these appear. Rajasi vivruddhe, when rajas is predominant. So when rajas is predominant, hey Bharat Arshava, a bull among the Bharatas, what happens? These following appear: greed, physical activity, restlessness, longing, and beginning of karma, doing lots of karma. So lobaha. What is lobaha? Shankara says the desire to acquire things which belong to somebody else. So Shankara adds that para over here. Normally lobha can be taken as desire to acquire things, but here Shankara says paraha. So acquire things which belong to somebody else. Also we can, give it the meaning of acquiring things beyond your legitimate requirement. So you can be needing, let us say, 3 pairs of shirts or 4 pairs of shirts, but 40 pairs of shirts is definitely lower. Then pravritti, active all the time. Activity is important for material progress. There's no doubt about that. But after some time, as you mature out, person should try to change his character to sattva pradhana. And what does this active person do? Aramba Karmana. He'll start different projects, project after project, project after project, he will start. Ashamaha. There is restlessness always, no cessation of activity, always hyperactive. And not only that, they are so hyperactive, they expect the same hyperactivity from everybody around, you know. So I had this boss who was, we had a large office. He used to stay, his office was a corner office. It's about 300 feet from where I was. And he would ring the bell and say, please come. So it takes time to walk 300 feet, no? So by the time I reach there, he's angry. I called you 2 minutes ago. So this sort of thing. Person who is not only active, but he wants people to materialize in front of him all the time. Moment he says something, somebody should be there. Thus people are super achievers, right? They achieve a lot of things, but also they have problems. They're impatient, they're intolerant, they're restless all the time, and they create tension to other people all the time. And therefore, Shankara adds here, Harsha Ragadi Pravrittihi. He is mentally active all the time, right? And what is the problem with that? He is active with Harsha and Raga. He is either happy or attached or both. What is the problem here? An emotionally predominant mind is not conducive for analysis. Therefore, it cannot come to Vedanta. So remember that we are not criticizing Rajoguna. In fact, if a society has to progress, there has to be a lot of Rajoguna. Even big ashrams, schools, hospitals, railway tracks, railways, planes, everything. Any progress, material progress in society is only because of Rajoguna. It does have a downside. There is no time for japa, there is no time for puja, there is no time for Gita, right? And therefore you have people who say desire for all sorts of objects in life. And that's why we have this English saying, shop till you drop. You go on shopping until finally one day you die. And such people are there, if you on a Sunday, if you go to their house, they'll be doing something. No question of sitting and relaxing. Either they go to a mall, or they go for a holiday, or they go and meet somebody. Facing themselves is a very big problem. How to sit and face my own self? That is a problem for such people. Such a person, where is the time for jnana? So with this, we'll stop for today. Any questions? Remember that this is only analysis. We are not criticizing Rajoguna. We are saying, yes, if you are Rajoguna specific, predominant, then there will be no time for jnana. So it's okay, but try to change. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sat Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Acharya ji.
Thank you.